Good evening. This is Senator Dean Heller, and I'm in my office in Washington, D.C. And I want to thank you for joining me this evening as we go through our weekly teletown hall meeting. We'll be on the phone for about an hour. We'll have quite a few people joining us, obviously just a few at this point, but first 15 or 20 minutes it grows to be quite the crowd. So it's good to talk to you. If you want to participate in this teletown hall meeting, talk about things going on in Washington, D.C., things going on in Las Vegas, hit 0 on your keypad. If you hit 0 on your keypad, puts you in the queue where you get to as many questions as we possibly can throughout this evening. But a lot's going on out here in Washington, D.C. A lot of individuals concerned about what's going on with the VA, immigration reform, jobs in the economy, and health care. Any of those issues you want to talk or any other issues you want to talk about, hit 0 on your keypad. That'll put you in the queue. We'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. But thank you for joining us. This is Dean Heller. I'm in my office in Washington, D.C. I have the teletown hall meetings once a week, and so it's great to have you on board. Tonight we'll be in Las Vegas, and we'll continue with our conversation for the next hour or so. We've got a number of people that are joining us now that want to ask questions. Hit 0 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue, and we'll get to as many questions as we can this evening. So let's start. First of all, let me apologize if I get your name wrong. Sometimes the name on this screen isn't accurate, so let me apologize beforehand as I move forward. But let's try Scott. Scott there in Las Vegas?
Yes, sir. Are you there?
Hi, Scott.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, and thanks for joining.
I just it's kind of more of a statement than a question. It's actually a question, too. Every time you hear about Social Security's in trouble or Medicare's in trouble or we got to cut military benefits, how come you never hear that they got to cut welfare when welfare is in the Social Security program? And how do people on welfare get a tax return? That is mind-boggling to me.
All right, Scott. It's a great way to start off this evening, and your comments are heard by hundreds of other Nevadans, including myself, and the concern that he has. Obviously, we do a lot to protect Social Security, Medicare. In this office, we believe that you've earned it, you've put money into it, and that you should receive the benefits from that. Obviously, we're looking to try to control spending. We're $17 trillion in debt. President keeps sending us a budget that taxes too much, borrows too much, and spends too much, and we never get caught up. And you know, there are bipartisan methods of which we can get that done, and I look for them. Number of ways to achieve this. My favorite is to put Bull Simpson down on the floor. That was the president's commission to try to balance the budget. Allow for an open amendment process. May take us a few months, but I think at the end of the day, we could pass a balanced budget and move this country in the right direction. But I understand the frustration. We're $17 trillion. I believe by the end of this this president's term, we'll be $20 trillion in debt. We'll literally have doubled it in 8 years. So anyway, my job, and I take this serious, is to protect Social Security and Medicare. We'll continue to do so for those that are on the line. And Scott, thank you for the question. Remain on and continue to listen, and we'll go from there. But if you're home and you want to hit hands free and have dinner or wash the dishes or whatever you may be doing at this point, it's kind of fun to have this conversation. Again, thank you. This is Senator Dean Heller. I'm in my office in Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining me this evening and having this teletown hall meeting with me. To participate, we got a number in the queue now. Please hit 0 on your keypad. Hit 0 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue, and we're going to get to as many callers as we can this evening. So let's go to John. John in Las Vegas.
Senator Heller?
Yes.
Hey, I want to thank you for your service, but I am really concerned. I've got a couple of letters back from you saying that you support our hero veterans, and I was hoping that you could clarify the context of that because, we were promised health care, and I think every honorably discharged veteran should be able to get the highest quality health care for free. And with what's going on with these current crises, we've listened to these kind of excuses for 4 decades. And we knew we'd have 1 million troops coming back over a decade ago when we went to war in 2 different zones. And we're just really tired of the recycled excuses. This is an opportunity to finally reform the VA, and I want to know what your position personally is on it and how much support we can count on.
Okay.
And the VA healthcare system, Dean, can be one of the finest in the world. But we've had some serious problems up at the new VA Medical Center at the ER. And at the same time, general practice medicine, they do great. I know most of the people working for the VA are fine people. But I want to know where you're at on this current crisis and what specifically are you going to do to support all honorably discharged veterans.
Terrific. I appreciate the question. I appreciate you taking time, and it's a very fair question. First of all, thank all veterans that are on the line today. Thank you for your service and your efforts to keep this country free. We're all indebted to you. We have 300,000 veterans in the state of Nevada. If you were watching Crossfire on CNN this afternoon, I was on that show talking about this specific question and this issue with the hosts on that show. My problem isn't with the rank and file over at the VA. My problem is with the bureaucracy. And my problem is the fact that, in fact, they just passed a piece of legislation over on the House side that now allows the Secretary to remove and replace bureaucrats that aren't doing their job. And you would think that you could do that, but frankly, it's not true. Middle management bureaucracy was not afraid of our congressional delegation. They're not afraid of Secretary Shinseki. They're not afraid of the president. And there are a lot of good, hardworking people trying to get their work done. And trust me, I believe every veteran's a first-class citizen and deserves a first-class health care treatment. So I'll continue to move forward on this. I'm very critical. I'm very critical of those who are not providing this kind of service to our veterans. My father, of course, being a veteran himself, a disabled veteran from the Korean War, is I think alive and well today because of the efforts of the VA hospital in Reno. And I hear a lot of positive comments. I want to make sure positive comments are coming from both the North and the South. We got a beautiful VA hospital down in Southern Nevada. Long time coming, well deserved, and I just think that veterans that go in there deserve good treatment. As you know, we've had some problems down there. We had a female veteran, blind veteran, that had to wait for 5-6 hours to get treatment and things, and frankly, that's just unacceptable. So anyway, I met with the VA officials in Las Vegas last weekend, asked about the emergency department. As you know, they built a new hospital, and yet the emergency hospital and room itself wasn't large enough. There was also an IG report on this, so I expect the VA to fix this problem with the size of the emergency room soon, and I've been told that I'll get a copy of that IG report and be able to look at it myself. So I'm in the front of this issue. Jonathan, thanks again for the call and the question, but I'll continue to do everything I possibly can to make sure the veterans get the health care service that they have earned. So anyway, thank you. Let's continue in Las Vegas with Jill. Jill? Hello? We lost Jill. Let's go to Bob in Las Vegas.
Hi. I was wondering, every survey they take shows that the American public is most concerned with job creation. Why don't we put a 5-year moratorium on foreign aid? We give billions of dollars to countries that hate us. Why don't we return that money, rebuild our infrastructure, create thousands of jobs? What do you think?
Not a bad idea. In fact, you're talking to the right person. I'm one that has a consistent record of voting against foreign spending. I do make one exception, and that's the exception with Israel. I believe as a country, these two countries, sister countries, frankly, that really support each other. We don't give them economic aid. We give them defense aid. and probably 80% of that defense aid is spent here in the United States. But otherwise, I've pushed back pretty hard on some of this foreign spending. I just don't support spending and sending taxpayer dollars overseas because the federal government, I believe, must be more responsible first and foremost with the needs of the American taxpayers. I have my view of the world, and that is that we take money from poor people in America and give it to rich people in foreign countries, and that, in my case, just doesn't make a lot of sense. So we have a lot of problems here in this country. We really do, and foreign aid is in the billions of dollars, and so I've been very, very strict on who I think we ought to be handing money out, especially to countries that have publicly said that they don't like our country. So anyway, working on that. Great question, great comment, and you've got someone here that listens to that and acts accordingly. So anyway, Robert, thank you for your question. I want to go out to Searchlight, and talk to Donna. Donna?
Hi, this is Donna in El Dorado Canyon, and what I'd like to ask you is Senator Reid had mentioned that we should all be obeying the laws when we're talking about Clive and Bundy's problems. And aren't the laws being broken not only by 7 to 10 million illegals who come in, but also how about the law that was passed that said that military ballots for people overseas were to be counted? And when Ohio passed a law that if they were a few days late, they would still be counted, then President Obama and his crew filed a lawsuit against Ohio to try to negate that law. Also, I understand only 4% of military overseas ballots were counted in the last election.
Okay, Donnie, you make a good point. Clearly, we're not consistent as a country in enforcing some of our laws and the way we should. As a member of the United States Senate, I take an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and I take that serious, and I believe most other senators do the same thing. As we go throughout our careers and talk about different issues, obviously, you gave some great examples of how we emphasize perhaps some laws over others, and it just shouldn't be that way. You talk a lot about elections and veterans getting an opportunity to vote, and I think you hit on a hot topic and something that's discussed often and should be discussed more often, and that's to make sure that those that are serving overseas, that they're treated like first-class citizens and certainly should have an opportunity to participate in the elections here in this country. You brought up the situation in Mesquite or Bunkerville with Bundy, and unfortunately, both sides were wrong, in my opinion. Both sides were wrong. I think that Bundy or that the BLM came in picking a fight, and they found a fight, and both sides were at a standstill. And I'm just very, very fortunate right now that nobody got hurt. And I think at the end of the day, that's I think what I'm most grateful for. But everybody does pay their property taxes. Everybody pays their sales taxes, and if you have use of public lands, of course, I think you ought to be paying those fees also. But needless to say, both sides were wrong on this particular situation, and we got into a pretty hotly contested issue there, and I'm just glad nobody got hurt and that we can move on from there. But anyway, Donna, thank you. You gave some great examples, and our military men and women should have that opportunity to participate in these elections. And any efforts by any politicians, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on, certainly shouldn't be stood for. So anyway, thank you, Donna. Let's go out to Boulder City. I'd like to go out to Boulder City now and talk to Mason. Mason?
Yes, Senator Heller, this is Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
I want you to explain maybe why my understanding of the public lands were supposed to be given back, and Nebraska was the last one, and why Nevada has so much land grab by the federal government. It just, to me, I know I'm a daughter of a rancher, and we've dealt with the BLM for years, from Oregon to whatever, but I want to know why that arrangement was never kept by the federal government and why they are so lofty. Is it because we're the West and they're the East? But you know what? It just seems to me that they should have to keep their promise, and they haven't done so.
No, you make a good point. For those that are on the phone, and trust me, I come from I live on a small farm myself. Between what's owned by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, Forest Service, and BLM, federal government owns 87% of the land in the state of Nevada. Kelly mentions Nebraska, and it's true. Nevada and Nebraska came into the Union at relatively the same time. Nebraska's public lands represent 3% of the state. So the question is why is so much of this land owned by the federal government? And you'd have to go back to court cases, and they would define the reason why that's the case. And it's the transaction between Mexico and the United States, and federal judges have opined that these lands belong to the federal government. I take issue with that. I think, like a lot of our callers or listeners, I know in the rural parts of the state it makes it very, very difficult to have a career now in mining and agriculture and in cattle and sheep and so on and so forth, when you have to deal with so many restrictions now that are coming down. Just in the last 30 years, 50% of the land that used to be used by cattle and sheep herders and agriculture has been taken away. And then in the next 30 years, most believe the other 50% will be taken away. And there's a lot of issues to it. Bottom line is that there's a Nevada Land Management Task Force. The Nevada Land Management Task Force was set up by the Nevada legislature. And this commission is going to determine whether it's even feasible for the state of Nevada to take these lands back. Very interested in what the results of that is going to be. I'll probably support the outcome of that particular task force, but I certainly want to read it first. But anyway, it's truly frustrating, and to think that and they call it public lands. It's not public lands. It's not for public consumption or public use. This is all government land. 87% of the state of Nevada is owned by the government, and in my opinion, it's government land. It is not the public. It's not public lands, because they truly do not allow the public to participate or to make a living off of it. So anyway, let's see what the task force says. I'm really interested, and I want to see how. What changes, and we'll move forward from there. So stay tuned to what that answer is. So anyway, we anticipate that the preliminary findings on that task force will be sometime in September. So I'm interested to hear, and then you'll hear more from me. But anyway, Kelly, thanks for the call. Let's go to Laughlin. Go to Laughlin and talk to George. George?
This is Donna.
Hi, Donna.
Hi. I have a question. Why is nothing being done to get this Marine out of Mexico? This boy put his life on the line for this country, and here he is sitting in there, and nobody in that White House seems to be doing a thing.
All right. You bring you pose a good question and a concern that obviously is very current. I do know that the State Department is working on it. We've gotten a number of letters and calls on this in my office, and we'll continue to follow up on that. But obviously, my goal is to urge the State Department to continue to work forward and getting something done. I know that there's a lot of offices also. There's been a number of conversations, at least on our side of the aisle, in conference about what the next appropriate move is to assist the State Department in bringing this young man back. So anyway, we're working on it. I don't have any details for you, but if you call my office, we can move forward on it and give you more details as information comes in. Thanks for the call. This is Senator Dean Heller, and I'm in my office in Washington, D.C. I want to thank everybody who's joining us, and we still have others joining us. Thank you very much. This is an opportunity that we can talk about issues that are going on in D.C. and what's going on in Clark County, and as the last caller, perhaps even things that are going on in Mexico with that soldier. But what questions that you have, please hit 0 on your keypad. That puts you in the queue. We're going to get to as many callers as we possibly can. If you want to send me an email, you can do so by going to heller.senate.gov. and hit the prompt to send me an email, you can do that. I promise you will answer the questions, or call my office in Las Vegas at 388-6605, 388-6605. Again, thanks for joining. Why don't we do this? Now that I have quite a few on the phone, let's go to our poll question. I like to ask a poll question during these teletown hall meetings to kind of get a feel for how things are going on around the state. I get different answers either from one corner of the state to the other, so I like to get a pretty good understanding and to see where Nevadans are on certain issues. Question I think is pertinent. I think the number one issue, I think one of our callers brought it up, number one issue in the country right now is jobs, the economy, and health care. Those are the three most important issues on people's mind across this country is jobs, economy, and health care. And this poll question has to do with the economy itself. And we see the economy inching forward, and the president often talks about the economy is improving. Just last month, we learned that there are 20 million Americans that are still unemployed or underemployed, which means real unemployment is probably closer to 12%. Meanwhile, unemployment in the state of Nevada remains one of the highest in the nation at 8%. Real unemployment, meaning those that are underemployed, unemployed, and underemployed, is probably north of 15%. So my question is for you, do you feel like the economy is turning around? On your keypad on your phone, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Again, the question is, do you feel like the economy is turning around? On the keypad on your phone, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Let's move on. Let's go to our next caller and talk to, let's go to Boulder City and talk to David. David?
Hello, my name is Dave Ghostin.
Hi, Dave.
How are you? It's more of a statement. I hear the people. It's just aggravating. It seems that Washington does not work, and it's only Republicans and Democrats there. So, I've decided to run for 3rd District Congress as an independent candidate. My name is Dave Ghostin. Senator.
Yes.
How are you ever going to solve the problems if you haven't already solved them? And I mean the whole spectrum. Go.
All right. Well, first of all, good luck on your race. I hope that success is at your door and that things go well for you. Tough to run in this environment, especially as an independent. We have two major parties, Republican, Democrats, and frankly, it's roughly large Democrats and Republicans, and then of course we have a number of independents, and it's a fast-growing field. So anyway, good luck to you, and hope things work out the way you need them to. It's difficult to solve problems out here in Washington, D.C. It's been frustrating for me. I've been in the Senate for 3 years, and the Senate hasn't run the way that I would think that it should run. Senate's been a deliberative body, and I think you've probably heard this before, that it's the most deliberative body in the world, and yet we have reduced that to being one of the least deliberative bodies. Unfortunately, the majority wields an iron fist and won't allow discussion on legislation that comes to the floor or amendments. And we need an open process. If we could have an open process, I think we can get a lot done here in Washington, D.C. If the majority party, whether that's Republicans or Democrats, would allow the minority party to offer amendments, and that's what the minority party wants. We know we're not guaranteed wins on our amendments. All we want to do is have our voices heard. And if Republicans take control, I assure you that they will allow the Democrats to be heard. But if we consistently work hard and work to solve issues in a bipartisan manner, I think we can get things done. There's a couple examples of that. Immigration reform was a bipartisan piece of legislation. I've worked hard on unemployment benefits for those hardworking Nevadans who have lost their jobs. These are examples of things that can get done, and we were able to accomplish in the Senate. And if we can get the House to follow suit, I think America will be better off. So anyway, I think you have to do it in a bipartisan manner. That's why I'm part of a group called No Labels. We worry more about the country and the issues more than we worry about whose party is affected by it. So, needless to say, Dave, that's my answer. Call me if you have more questions. You can do that at 388-6605. Would love to continue this dialogue. So, thanks. Let's go to back to Las Vegas and talk to Nancy. Nancy?
Hello, this is David.
Hi, David.
Hello, this is David.
Hi, David.
Yes. Hello?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, just didn't hear anything back. Kind of have a three-part question. What are you going to do if all of the people, when they're brought on the carpet from the VA, do what Lois Lerner did and plead the Fifth Amendment? That's part one. Part two, on the Bunkerville thing. As I understand it, all this man did was owe a debt. There's lots of ways for the government to collect debt. He's 67 years old. You could have garnished his Social Security. You could just simply put a lien on his property, his house, his possessions, his IRS checks. But if the government's going to come in and this is the new way they're going to collect debts, are you going to collect debts this way when somebody defaults on their student loan? Send in armed people to collect them? This was pretty ridiculous from my point of view. And number three, immigration. What a topic. Immigration is people leaving their country to come to this country. They're basically saying that this country has no property rights, no sovereignty. If that be true, can I immigrate into your house? Can I immigrate into the White House? Can I immigrate into the national parks? If nobody's going to stop me and give me amnesty, why not? Why can't I just immigrate where I want to? Into your house, into the White House, anywhere I want? Thank you much.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, David, and thanks for taking time to listen to the Town Hall meeting. I think there are probably a number of people on this call that would like these questions asked. Starting with the VA. I think, as you probably saw either on CNN Crossfire tonight or the hearing last week, I think I held Shinseki accountable at that committee hearing last week, and I expect changes. I expect changes in Nevada. We have 300,000 veterans in the state of Nevada. They should be treated accordingly, properly, and they should get a first-class health care system. Otherwise, my argument is there needs to be changes at the top. As I said, a bill was passed in the House today that gave the authority to can those to fire those in the current system, bureaucrats that aren't doing their jobs, and I think that's a first step forward that does make sense. And I think we need some changes in Nevada, frankly. I think the regional office in Nevada is poorly handled, and I'd like to see those kind of changes, and I have been promised by Shinseki that would happen. Unfortunately, that was 3 months ago, and needless to say, very little has happened. You talked about a little bit about Bunkerville, and I would be the first to say that BLM handled the situation very poorly. I think both sides were wrong on this, but after extensive conversations with both federal and local authorities, I believe BLM and the NPS, the Nevada Park Service, did infringe on the rights of law-abiding Nevadans. So I think they acted well beyond their authority, and should be held accountable for that, just as much as Bundy should be held accountable for not paying the fees that he owes for running those cattle. So anyway, very, very poorly handled. I think I've been very clear on this. I think both sides were wrong, and again, the upside is that nobody got hurt in this situation. Going to immigration a little bit, our nation, of course, has a proud history of immigration. I think most people on the phone support immigration reform unless you believe that the current system is working. And I think most would argue that having 11, 12 million people here undocumented shows that our immigration system is not working. We passed immigration reform last year in the Senate. Not a perfect bill. Nobody's calling it a perfect bill. We thought that House would take it up, and I'm still hoping the House will take it up and bring to it some common sense reforms and what's necessary. to move this country forward. But I believe everybody is for immigration reform unless you like the current system we have. And this system is broken. It really is broken, and we need to do something very different. So hopefully that happens. I'm encouraging the House. I don't think Nevada is an issue in this. I think most of our delegation would support a good, reasonable immigration reform, and yet there's others. So it's going to take a lot of work, but I hope to get something done by the end of the year. Hopefully we can move this country forward. David, thanks for the questions. Thanks for taking time, and thanks for joining me on this Teletown Hall meeting. I appreciate everybody that's with us. It looks like we've got most people here on the phone with us. This is my weekly Teletown Hall meeting, and we move forward with questions that you have. We've had great questions this evening. I want them to keep coming, but hit 0 on your keypad. That'll put you in the queue. We're trying to get to as many people as we possibly can this evening. But again, thank you for joining me and being part of this. I want to do the poll question one more time, since it looks like we have everybody now on the phone, and that has to do with our economy. The most important issues facing the American people today, regardless of which poll you look at, are jobs, the economy, and health care. In whatever order, those are the 3 hottest topics and most important topics to the American people. And the president often talks about how the economy is improving. He says that, and just last month we learned that 20 million Americans are unemployed or underemployed, and that means real unemployment probably hovers somewhere around 12%. Meanwhile, here in Nevada, unemployment remains one of the highest in the nation at 8%, and our real unemployment is probably closer to 15%. So here's my question for you today. Do you feel like the economy is turning around? If you feel like it is, on your keypad, press 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Do you feel like the economy is turning around? 1 for yes, 2 for no, and 3 if you're undecided. Thank you for participating. I use the data and the information on this here in Washington, D.C., whether it's in committee or on the floor or just one-on-one conversations with other senators, how you feel here in Nevada. So please participate, and thank you for taking time. Let's go to Mesquite and talk to Nancy. Nancy in Mesquite?
My name is Paul.
Hi, Paul.
A couple of things. The Bundy situation, like you say, was totally out of line. The BLM land should belong to the American people, not to the government. We pay for those. Secondly, when I was listening to our wonderful, stupid president today, he says that the doctors are getting bonuses. Why are we paying them bonuses to take care of our veterans when we pay them to take good care of our veterans in the first place?
2 good questions. 2 good questions, Paul, and thank you for participating and taking time and being patient. Everybody's being really patient here today. I don't know how much further I can go in the Bundy situation except to repeat that I think both sides were wrong on that. Unfortunately, the federal government owns 47% of the state. I think that I have real issues with that. I'm sorry, 87% of the state. I have real issues with that, and it makes it very, very difficult for ranchers, for farmers, for cattlemen, for sheep herders, and for the mining industry, when the federal government has so many regulations and so many restrictions on its use. So I'd like to see that change. I would really like to see that change, and we're going to follow the task force. There's a Nevada Land Management Task Force that will be reporting in September, and they're going to be just looking at the feasibility of Nevada getting some of this land back. I think it's important for our state. I think it would actually make our state much healthier because of it. Going to the VA and the fact that they were writing out bonuses, I couldn't agree more with you, Paul. They should not be receiving bonuses, especially when veterans are receiving such poor health care. This is going to be debated. Actually, I think a couple pieces of legislation were dropped today on this very issue, trying to either reduce the bonuses, eliminate the bonuses, putting restrictions on the bonuses one way or another to make sure that the focus is on veterans and not on someone getting a bonus. I think it's a real shame that we walk down that road, but we'll see what this legislation says, and of course we'll debate it in the Veterans Committee. Thank you for taking the call. Back to Las Vegas and talk to Lynn. Lynn?
Yes, hello. Gosh, I have a plethora of questions, but I'm just going to pick one out.
Okay.
I am concerned. I'm a business consultant. I own a business here. I've been in Las Vegas for 40 years. I've opened several of the hotels, worked for Mr. Wynn. And I'm at a point where I don't know what to tell my clients. Between the government processes to get through just to own a business, whether you're importing, exporting, or farming or whatever, trying to brand, get a logo, get on the Internet, get through the Internet taxes. It's just almost impossible to have a small to medium-sized company break even in the first year to two. You know, and I'm losing clients, and I can't even get them answers because even with my background, I'll spend hours on the phone trying to get a hold of government offices to find out what the current regulation is. Are we in violation? Where can we put the warehouse? You know, the mountains of regulations have to stop. You know, otherwise people like myself should just be hired to go into the federal offices because I could whip it into shape in 90 days. It's real simple. You hold them accountable. I cannot believe what's going on in this country. I know you've spoken to a few of the issues, but do you guys think that in Washington you have a real sense of what the business people, for you in Nevada, for the rest of the senators nationwide, are really going through?
Okay, Lynn. First of all, let me point out that, we have some real problems in Washington, D.C. Most senators have problems in Washington, D.C. because they don't see the problems. Out here in Washington, D.C., we are a recession-free zone. We didn't have a recession like the rest of the country did. Unfortunately, the fact that we live in an area that probably, if you take the 5 wealthiest counties in the nation, they're all around Las Vegas, and that's not healthy. It's not healthy when your government works in that manner and are frankly void of seeing what's really going on out there. That's why I think it's important for someone like me to go back to Nevada, which I do nearly every weekend while I'm out here in Washington, D.C., spending my time in Las Vegas, spending my time in rural portions of the state, and, of course, Reno also, so that I can see how difficult this economy has been and the difficulty it is to create jobs. These regulations you're talking about should be limited. I would agree with that. Some of the regulations that you're talking about, Lynn, include those from local government, state government, and then, of course, you have to deal with the regulations at the federal level. And it can be mind-boggling and overwhelming for a small businessman and woman to try to navigate through all of that. There are hundreds of thousands of new regulations. Just take Obamacare as itself. That is a very, and frankly, they haven't even gotten through half the regulations. Half the regulations that they're going to put on the American people. This is going to be a very, very onerous and difficult law. And this is why if you have over 50 employees, under 50 employees, of course, you're exempt from the law. Over 50, why would people, small business on the cusp of 50 employees, want to hire more if they know they're going to be taxed more? They'll get more regulations if they do so. It's very anti-business in that direction. A lot of red tape. I just want you to know that you have a friend back here in Washington, D.C. I'm a low-tax, small government, reasonable regulation, free market capitalist, and there aren't very many of us left out here in Washington, D.C. I'm one of the few, and I'll continue to work that way. I know it's tough for you. I'll continue to push back when we see these regulations. And I see them all the time. I see it in the mining industry. The permitting process takes so long. I mean, it could take up to 10 years just for a single mine to be open because of that permitting process, and it costs millions and millions of dollars and tens of millions of dollars in order to open up a mine. But it's just one example. It's one example of what we should be doing to streamline the process so that we can create jobs. in a state that really needs a job. So anyway, you've shared your concern, and I'm hearing and listening to you, and I think many on the phone have the same concerns that you do. So thanks for taking time, and thanks for being on the Teletown Hall meeting with me tonight. Let's go to Mesquite. Let's go to Mesquite and talk to Linda.
Oh, hi. Senator?
Yes.
Hello, Senator. This is Linda. I'm in Mesquite, and I have had the pleasure of meeting you on past occasions, and thank you for what you're doing in Washington. I've recently become very, very concerned about Nevada's education situation, where we are 50th in the nation as far as our high school graduates. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what you can do. I don't know what the state is able to do, but this is just unacceptable. We're not meeting the needs of our young people, and therefore we're not meeting the needs of our nation. How can you help?
Okay. Thank you, and thanks for the question. Education, you're absolutely right. It's completely unacceptable that we're 50th in so many different categories. Let me start out by saying this, is that my wife is a school teacher, and obviously as a father of four who grew up in Nevada in public schools. All my children grew up in public schools in Nevada. I think I have a pretty good idea firsthand what students, parents, and teachers are facing. I'm one who believes that the three most important people for a child's education is the teacher, the parent, and the principal. And unfortunately, in our bureaucracy, we bring superintendents in, and we bring bureaucrats from Washington, D.C. in to try to determine what's best for that child. And there's no one-size-fits-all, even within a school district, let alone the country as a whole. But we continue to try. Education policies, as I said, should be determined by the local schools and by state officials, and not out of Washington, D.C. We spend billions, tens of billions of dollars every year here in Washington, D.C., trying to mandate to the local governments and the local school districts how they should do their job. We have 1,300 employees in the Department of Education here in Washington, D.C. The average salary is over $100,000 a year. I said we could take this money and get it down to the state and local governments and let the teachers, the principals, and the parents decide what's the best for that child. And I think we'll have a much better system in the state of Nevada. So you're aware of some statistics, federal education spending has increased by nearly 400%. 400%, but of course there hasn't been any corresponding achievement that has come with it. Clearly, what we're doing right now, and I'm not talking about the elimination of the Department of Education, because there are some statistics that my office uses and sees from them. But the fact that we mandate down to the local levels, I think is just plain wrong. And if you want to teach that child, that parent, that teacher, and that principal will be the one that comes up with those answers. So anyway, thank you very much for the call. I think if we get funding down to the local level, the tens of billions that we spend in Washington, D.C., if we can get that to the states, we'd all be much better off. Linda, thanks for the education question. Let's go back to Las Vegas and talk to Carlos. Carlos?
Hello, this is Daniel.
Hi, Daniel.
Hi. I was actually wondering where you currently stand on immigration reform. It seems like it's been years and years that the Republicans and Democrats, they always talk about it, but it always ultimately gets pulled aside. I mean, I know there's many hardworking immigrants in this country. Approximately 11.2 million of them actually pay taxes towards this country, and they love this country. And I mean, it seems like the only real step we've taken was the DREAM Act, which ultimately was just an executive order by President Obama.
Okay. Daniel, thanks for your question. And obviously this is an issue that comes and goes quite frequently. I'll tell you, I had a meeting last night with leadership, Republican leadership of both the House and the Senate. And, you get a bunch of Republicans together, and if the topic is immigration reform, it's on the top of everybody's list. Question is whether or not we can pass the Senate bill that passed last year in the House of Representatives. I would think right today that if you put that bill on the House floor and allowed a vote, I think it would pass. And then we would have reasonable immigration reform here in this country. I think most people are for immigration reform, unless you like the current system we have. And I don't know of anybody that's satisfied with the current system we do have. So here's the thing: I supported it. I believe I was one of 14 Republicans that supported the immigration reform bill. So I'm on the side of immigration reform. I'd like to see the necessary changes. It's not a perfect bill that came out of the Senate. Never thought it would be a perfect bill, but it was a movement in the right direction. Hopefully we can get something done, get the House moving on this issue. I've talked to their leadership. I know a lot here in the Senate. Have talked to the leadership on the other side. Let's see if we can get something done. I'd certainly hope to see something get done by the end of the year. Daniel, thanks for your question, and hope that you understand where I'm coming from, and really supporting to move something so that we can get this issue off the table and move on to other issues that are as important. So anyway, Daniel, thank you. Let's go to North Las Vegas. Go to North Las Vegas and talk to Carolyn. Carolyn?
Hello, Mr. Heller. My name is Mike, and I'm out here in North Las Vegas. I'm a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Army, and my neighbor is a 34 veteran of the U.S. Navy. And we both go to the Veterans Hospital up here off of Losee, and we both are diabetics, and we had went up there for appointments to see the endocrinologist. And when we seen the endocrinologist, we had to make a referral appointment for to see him again in 2 months. Well, I went the next day and called back, and they were booked up for 3 months. And when they were booked up for 3 months, I asked them, how do we make appointments if our endocrinologists want to see us? He said, call back and wait for cancellations in order to get in to see the doctors. And my neighbor, he's a veteran of World War II, the Vietnam War, and he's really wheelchair bound and everything, and he goes up there to the hospital all the time, and his appointments have been canceled. They sent him a little card in the mail and canceling his appointments. And he's beside himself with the VA hospital. And my next question is, with the latest censor that we had on the federal government, why is the military and the veterans getting taxed for all the additional money that they needed? And my third question is for the lady that works at the VA hospital that's in charge of them. I was a non-commissioned officer for over 20 years in the military, and we were always accountable for the people below us. And it seems like I've seen her on TV a couple times saying she don't have any problems up there. But I've been up there quite a few times, and the appointments and the veterans up there are very disgruntled. So I'm just asking, what can you do about it?
Okay, Mike. Mike, thanks. I heard that comment in the background also, but thanks for participating, and thanks for asking your question. I've said this, and it's worth repeating, that I believe our veterans, and both you, Mike, and your neighbor, thanks for your service to this country. You guys are all first-class citizens, and you deserve first-class health care. You're not getting that today out of the VA hospital there in Las Vegas. That needs to change. That truly needs to change. The kind of service today is unacceptable. If you can't get your appointments, that's unacceptable, and that's why we're having the very discussion we're having today. I raised the question in the hearing last week as to why Shinseki shouldn't retire or resign his post as secretary for the VA system, and I'm going to continue to ask that question as we delve into this. But it's your kind of question, your kind of comments that I'm going to use in the future in hearings because this is very frustrating for me. And I want the president to take a leadership role in this. I want corrective answers from those at the top, and I'm going to continue to ask. I will continue to ask as we move forward. I was on Crossfire today on CNN talking about this very issue and how unacceptable it is that we need to move the VA forward, but we need to make sure that people that are making decisions are making correct decisions. I am tired of this as much as you are, and it's just absolutely unacceptable. So we'll continue to work on this. We'll continue to work on this. What I would like you to do is call my office so we can give you specific help and support talk to Margot in my office at 388-6605. And make sure your neighbor has this information also. Margot, 388-6605. And let's make sure, I assure you, if the Senate's office calls, and it shouldn't have to be this way, but if our office calls, I believe we can get you the appointments that you need. We'll certainly work with you on that. So anyway, Mike, hang in there. Thank you again for your service, and thanks for participating today on this Teletown Hall meeting. I want to go back into Las Vegas, talk to Nathan. Nathan?
Hi. Excuse me. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Well, I started listening to everybody talking, and I realized, not that I hadn't known before, that our country right now is a disaster in every avenue, from the VA to the health care to the everything. Everything's a mess. How did it get this way, and why is it this way? Why do we believe in one way, and we have the other side that totally believes in a different way? What is their goal? What is the goal of the other side? And as far as the VA, why do we have a VA? Why don't we give all our military people a card, and they can go to any doctor at any time for any reason? Why does it have to be a government agency? Why do they have to go through any of that? They could have a medical card and go to any doctor they want. We pay for it, period, end of story. And as far as the illegal immigrants in this country, you want to pass amnesty. We're not even closing the borders. They're flooding in while we're trying to figure out what to do. So there's another ridiculous thing. And as far as senators and all of you, why aren't there term limits? Why are there no term limits? How do you become a millionaire? How do you earn millions of dollars being a full-time senator for your life? That's your life. How do you become a millionaire?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all your questions. You had quite a few of them, and I think there are some that are eagerly waiting to hear the answer. You're right. This country's moving in the wrong direction. From the problems that we have with the VA, problems we have with health care, problems we have with the economy, the fact that there aren't jobs out there. Immigration policy is messed up in this country. We're just moving in the wrong direction, and I think we're seeing that dissatisfaction in every polling data that I've seen in the last couple of years of how dissatisfied the American people are with what's going on out here in Washington, D.C., and frankly, they should be. Not enough working together, no doubt, not enough working together. People willing to work together and try to solve problems out here. That's why I'm part of No Labels. That's a bipartisan group and organization that we work together to try to solve problems that we have here in Washington, D.C., and not try to make it an R issue or a D issue, but let's make it an American issue. And it's difficult to do. There's not a lot of people in the middle that are willing. Not a lot of people here in Washington, D.C. that are willing to work with someone on the other side to get things done. As far as term limits are concerned, I've supported term limits. There's a piece of legislation every year. Getting leadership to put it down to the floor is very, very difficult. It just hasn't happened at this point. But anyway, needless to say, we ought to have some of these reforms, and I think America would be better off because of it. Your issues on immigration reform and securing the border. If you took a look at the legislation that passed out of the United States Senate, it was a borders first piece of legislation. I mean, it pushed hard. I mean, if this legislation passes, there'll be border security, an individual every 1,000 feet on the border, necessary to protect our borders and to make sure that we are in complete control. So that, frankly, was part of the effort that I put into it to make sure that if we're going to have immigration reform here in this country, we need to start by border security first. That's what this legislation does. So I'd be more than happy to send that legislation to you if you're more interested so that you have an opportunity to read it. But as I've said earlier, I think most people believe we need immigration reform. Unless you like the current system and how it's working, everybody really is for immigration reform. The question is, how do we get there? A lot of ideas, and the Senate passed a version. Wasn't perfect. Hopefully the House will take it up and make it better. And that's how legislation works out here. But anyway, thanks for the call and thanks for taking time. Thanks for being part of our discussion this evening. I want to thank everybody. We still have a number of people here in the queue that want to get to their questions. Please don't hang up. Stay with me. I can only go to one more call. We're at the end of our hour, so I can only get to one more caller. But I want everybody else to stay on the phone. I'm going to transfer you to voicemail, and so that we can get your comments and your questions. And either myself or someone from my office will return your call. And make sure you leave your name and telephone number. Of course, that makes it important. But I have time for one more call, so I want to stay in Las Vegas and talk to Elizabeth. Elizabeth in Las Vegas?
Yes, this is Elizabeth.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I know that today this House Bill 4031 did pass, and I understand that the Senate Bill 2013 is coming up for vote. And I heard that Senator Reid is not going to bring it up so we can vote, so you gentlemen can vote on it. Is that true? And then that's my first issue. I've been in touch with Margot this week in your office because my husband goes to the VA hospital and gets really great care. However, he's been appealing his compensation since 2004. And every time I have all documentation, and the last time he got an increase up to a whole 20%, they keep saying that they have lost his paperwork. When I get letters back from them saying they're still in the process, it's just very frustrating. So I'm hoping that these bills that we're passing in the House or the Senate are going to relieve some of these people up in Reno their jobs, because all I do is get lies from them. I've been working with the Jewish veterans over at the VA, and that is the only way my husband has ever gotten any compensation for his disability from the VA.
Okay, Elizabeth, thank you for your comments, and thank your husband, yourself, for the sacrifices that you guys have made, both of you, for this country, and thanks for working with my office and trying to get this done. And I'm glad you talked to Margot also. That's the way we're going to get this done. If you stay in contact with Margot, my office will work with you on this. You're correct. House Bill 4031 passed today. That gives you authority for members, for the Secretary of the VA to reduce or to fire those that aren't doing their jobs correctly. It's also my understanding that Senator Rubio may be trying to ask for this to pass tomorrow, whether by UC, which is unanimous consent, or a vote. I'd prefer a vote. I want a vote on this particular issue. There are about 34 House members that voted against this. Why they don't think you should fire people that don't do their jobs. Unfortunately, civil service jobs sometimes, in the mind of some, take precedence over our veterans' health care, and I think that's wrong. But needless to say, stay in contact with Margot. This claims backlog, I feel the same way you do. I want to see changes in Reno. I have been calling for changes in Reno. I talked to Secretary Shinseki about the lack of leadership and work in the Reno regional office, and he has promised me that there will be changes. He promised me that 3 months ago. We still haven't seen changes. I made noise and news on that today when I was on Crossfire on CNN tonight, that our regional office doesn't even return phone calls, not only to veterans, but members of our own delegation as we're trying to get information out of there. So I can understand your frustration. We share it here in this office. So I'll continue to work on that, work on the backlog problems, and let's see if we can get some help and support. Stay in contact with Margot. We'll continue to help. Thank you for being on the on our talk today. So anyway, thank you for joining our teletown hall meeting. For everybody who has participated tonight, we still have a number of people still in the queue. We want to get to you. Don't hang up. As soon as I'm done, we're going to send you to voicemail. Please leave a message. Myself or someone from my staff wants to hear your questions and comments. We also want to answer them. So thank you again for participating. Please leave your name and telephone number, because if you don't, it's difficult for us to get back to you. This is Dean Heller. Thank you for participating and joining my teletown hall meeting, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thank you.